welcome to the program. As the Liberal and Labor leaders have their whirlwind tours continuing to marginal seats around the country in the closing days of this election campaign, they've also become increasingly embroiled in a debate about having another debate before election day. The Greens have called negotiations between the Gillard and Abbott campaigns farcical, and tonight there's still no agreement on a time, place or duration. At the start of the campaign, Tony Abbott wanted 3 debates. Julia Gillard said 1 was enough. Then she wanted a second on the economy, but Tony Abbott did not. Then last night he called for a half-hour debate tonight, and she said she wanted an hour. But first, and we're going to be talking with Tony Abbott in just a moment, alone, but here's political editor Heather Ewart with the day's campaign highlights. Please welcome the Leader of the Opposition.
It's a long-standing tradition that party leaders appear before the National Press Club in the final week of the election campaign. And today, Tony Abbott used his address to make this pitch to undecided voters.
You don't owe this government anything, so don't be taken in by the plea that you've got to give it a second chance. That, in fact, is the real risk that Australia faces at this election.
With some party strategists saying privately at this point the coalition is a few seats short of pulling off an historic victory, Tony Abbott will push the Rudd factor right up to election day.
And I say to the Australian people, why should voters feel squeamish about changing the government when the government itself felt no compunction whatsoever about removing the Prime Minister? Removing the Prime Minister without pity or mercy.
It was a speech that repeated much of what we've already heard over and over for days now, though he did seek to highlight new announcements to reform infrastructure planning and delivery, along with a scheme to combat long-term unemployment that's very similar to Labor's. The coalition would introduce a $6,000 bonus to encourage the unemployed to relocate to take up work, and it would give young Australians a $2,500 bonus if they get a job and stay off welfare for 12 months.
And I have to say, ladies and gentlemen, that the inspiration for these important participation reforms does not come so much from my great political mentors and former colleagues, John Howard and Peter Costello, important though they are. The inspiration for this comes from Noel Pearson and the people working with Noel. And the beneficiaries of these policies, I hope, will be some of the young people that I had the chance to work with in Cape York in 2008 at Cowan School and 2009 at Arakoon School, who deserve a better deal.
And so do you do the whole lot of...
Campaigning in more marginal seats in Queensland today as Tony Abbott addressed the press club, Julia Gillard was also sticking to familiar themes, promoting the rollout of the national broadband network in Townsville.
Is the national broadband network being rolled out right behind us today? This is going to be completed in 12 weeks' time with switch on after that. I've been to Tasmania and I've seen the first customers on the national broadband network. This is technology that is reaching into homes now.
But 4 days out from election day, she seemed just as concerned to attack Tony Abbott's last-minute declaration last night that he'd meet her challenge to debate the economy if it was for half an hour tonight. She countered that it should be an hour-long debate tomorrow night before a community forum in Brisbane.
I think Mr Abbott's been a bit too clever by half, because Mr Abbott, having spent 2 weeks running from an economic debate, is still running from a fair dinkum economic debate. Mr Abbott is saying if he talks on the economy for 15 minutes, then he's all in, all done. He hasn't got anything else to say. Well, I don't think that's good enough.
Do you think that this ongoing debate about a debate actually is a reason why voters turn off politicians?
Well, I think Mr Abbott's been running from an economic debate. He's been running from economic scrutiny.
What we're seeing now between the two leaders is an absolute farce. It's an absolute farce, and people everywhere are rolling their eyes.
It seems extraordinary that so close to election day, this is what's occupying the minds of the leaders in their ongoing bid to outmanoeuvre one another. Back at the press club, Tony Abbott tried to take the high moral ground.
Ladies and gentlemen, this election ought not turn on comparative trivia such as how people handle debates or how people handle community forums. This election should turn on who would be the most competent people with the best policies to run our country for the next 3 years.
Sounds reasonable enough, yet it was the coalition that upped the ante in the first place last night, as Tony Abbott set a strict time limit and location for the debate. Therefore, he's partly responsible for what he calls the trivia. So, will there be a debate and a community forum in Brisbane tomorrow night, or not?
I will be there. I will turn up to face the people of Queensland, and I challenge the Prime Minister, don't be scared of Queensland. Don't be frightened of the wrath of Queenslanders. Face up to it and deal with it as best you can.
Well, Julia Gillard doesn't plan to turn up to the forum in the absence of any agreement for a lengthy debate on the economy. Today, negotiations between the Gillard and Abbott campaigns reached absurd levels, with a flurry of letters dealing with this proposal.
I am happy to debate the Prime Minister for half an hour on your channel, Heather, the ABC, our ABC. I'm happy to debate the Prime Minister for half an hour tonight. And if the Prime Minister is concerned that she might be at a disadvantage because she's in a remote location, I'm happy to ensure that I am also in a remote location so we have a level playing field for that debate.
That wasn't going to happen either, with the ALP labelling it nothing more than a stunt. The chances of a debate on the economy any time before election day look slimmer by the minute. Still, for those voters complaining of lack of detailed policy discussion on this campaign, there was at least one pressing issue in Townsville being addressed today.
Yes. Just a quick one. Do you think tomato sauce should be free when you buy meat pie from the bakery?
I think
It's a big debate at the moment in Townsville.
a big debate.
It really is.
Really is. Look, I grew up in the days that the tomato sauce did come for free, and it was put on out of the bottle at the bakery. I know in the modern age, perhaps, I'm not sure, but perhaps for health and safety reasons, we've moved to the plastic things you squeeze and you pay for. I guess it's better when the sauce comes for free.
Not exactly a barbecue stopper in other parts of the nation, but we do now know Julia Gillard's views on pies and tomato sauce, and at least there's not too much more of this to go.
Political editor Heather Ewart.